had one of the fastest moving teams, but I did it differently than my bosses expected. And they used the whip. And that was it. And that was like, go, go, go. And there was still a lot of go, 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 but I did it at a human level. Oftentimes I was asked to fire people that I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. And I said I wouldn't. Go do the thing that you're passionate about. And I know it's scary. I know that you're going to have to drop everything and do it. And you don't know what's at the bottom of this 30-meter tower. It's dark. You could get hurt. All of those things.
Talk to me about empathy and what you believe empathy is and how it should be used to understand and work with people.
If you recognize that I'm a flawed person, then there's grace that's given to the error that I'm going to make somewhere in my life, on or off duty. And so if you can give me just grace for the things that are going to happen to me as a human, then that's how I kind of bunch up empathy for leading people.
Welcome to Unbreakable Leadership, no-nonsense podcast for leaders who want real-world lessons. I'm Peter Pollock, and with over 30 years of military and corporate leadership, I'm here to share struggles, successes, and practical advice that actually works. We'll look at real leadership stories that matter, focusing on attention, integrity, and growth through failure. Let's get started.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unbreakable Leadership. I have the pleasure of interviewing a guy that I met a couple of weeks ago, going through a class for my next job at SPCC, David Satchell. So Satch, he goes by Satch. He tells the students, my mom calls me Satch, so you better call me Satch. So I'm like,
that's right.
I'm not his mom, but I'm going to call him Satch. So Satch, I want you to introduce yourself, tell the audience a bit about your background, why you joined the Air Force, what did you do in the Air Force, what did you retire at, and wrap it up with what you do now and what we're about to do together. All right, go for it.
Okay, fantastic. So first, thanks, Peter, for inviting me here. I mean, that's a huge, huge thing for you to select me to be part of this journey for you. So thanks first. Yes, my name is David Satchell. I go by Satch. My mama calls me Satch. So that's how I also know that people know me also. Yeah. Like if they call me David, I got a pretty good understanding they don't know who I am. And so that's fine. But now it allows me to understand what level of communication we're on. Sure. But I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. And that's where I was born and raised. And then I joined the Air Force really just by chance. I was trying to play college football. That didn't work out. And so here was the next thing. And that was fantastic. The Air Force was really good to me. I was a dental tech. And then I learned maybe halfway through my career that that's not exactly what I wanted to do. And so I cross-trained into the command post career field, which is basically the folks that are working for the senior executive on the base to ensure that the things are properly responded to higher headquarters and throughout the base. Also, the people that alert the base that there's something really bad about to happen. And so that was a really cool opportunity for me to shift into that. I then traversed through the leadership track and found myself as a command chief. And that was an awesome selection and responsibility that I took and that I loved.
Yeah, sure.
And then very shortly into my command chiefdom, I was called to the Pentagon to be part of the executive team for Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, right?
Nice.
General Goldfein and Secretary Wilson as part of the executive team. That is the pinnacle of my duty in the Air Force. That I had a stake in some of the things that were rapidly changing and changing for the good. And so, I retired in 2020, and I went directly into Amazon, which was
nice.
was not the best decision, but I went into Amazon, and because I just didn't know what it was like to never have a job. I either worked at Taco Bell before the military, I worked in the military, and then in Amazon. And so, although there was a lot of learning that came from that 2 years that I spent there, I went back to what I really loved, and that was leading people and developing people. And I found that I had a knack in that
Yeah.
at the final third of my career. And
Yeah.
so here I am, after building a company called Core, which has
Yeah.
been really doing really well. So thank you for Peter
That's
for
awesome,
allowing me
Satch.
to do
Now,
that.
does CORE stand for something? Does the acronym stand for something, or is it just
It
CORE?
does
Is it just
not.
like base?
It does have. It is meaningful, meaning that core, meaning from within you. And I practice the human domain of leadership, which is
Mm.
different than the lean tools and such that you use. I'm practicing. How do I utilize the skills that are within me to motivate and inspire folks and create optimal performance.
Sure. No, that's awesome. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, it's funny. So we have a couple connections going on here, and I'll just cover those before we move on. So Omaha, Nebraska. Yeah, they took this guy from Australia who went to school in Hawaii and said, "Listen, guy, you have not experienced the United States now, so we're going to station your ass at Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska." So
Yeah.
in 1993, I was stationed at Offutt. -70 wind chills. That's the best thing that I remember about Omaha, Nebraska.
I know.
It's totally flat, dude, and you can see the cold coming from days away because there's
Yeah,
no
for
mountains
sure.
anywhere. So, and also you mentioned you worked with Chief Wright. I actually worked with him too. He was the MSG superintendent, and fantastic guy, very great, good orator. And as soon as I met him, I was like, wow, this guy's going to be someone in our Air Force. I really did know that. So
Yeah, no doubt.
it's awesome that you got the pleasure to work with him. He's a great guy and he's very gifted. But let's go on to what we want to talk about today. I want to talk about the name of the podcast is Unbreakable Leadership, right? So we're going to talk about I want to talk about leadership that is obviously successful, but people make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So I want to talk about times that maybe you learned in your journey. So in the 30 years that you spent, I think you spent 30 years in there in the Air
That's
Force.
right.
Is that correct,
Mhm.
Satch? All right. What's the single biggest leadership lesson in the military that caught you that still guides your work today in Core?
Yeah. So, when you started and prefaced this about mistakes, and I made a huge one, and one that a lot of people would not be able to see. And that was I was demoted somewhere between E5 and E6.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because I had my hair on fire. I was living in Las Vegas. I was living
Satch,
my
you don't
best
have any
life,
hair. I
young,
don't
single.
know if the audience can see you don't have any hair. You must have burned it all off.
It's true.
I'm kidding. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting you. You had your hair on fire and go on. Finish.
Right, exactly. And that's probably the reason why I don't have hair. But I was really good at the work that I did.
Yeah.
And so that kind of covered up all the sins. And so as soon as I got off duty, I was running downtown and I partied all night long.
Yep.
And I was just not the responsible leader that I could be.
Look.
Then came a young man, one of my first troops that I ever had. And he was a virgin. He was from Lompoc, California, and
Oh, wow.
his parents were preachers. And he basically modeled his life after me. And so he went high speed.
Yeah.
And found himself into some trouble that I didn't get myself into, but he had wound himself into some trouble. And
Sure.
as he was then kicked out of the Air Force, right after, subsequently, my boss called me in the office and said, "You're not mature enough to lead people," and he demoted me. And
wow.
so that was a hard lesson. But to answer your question fully, it was that people can skin their knees and get back up and keep going if they're willing to. So,
100%. 100%. It's interesting as you were telling that story and you said that you were demoted. I will tell you that I've been fortunate enough to retire 12, 13, 14 people since I retired myself. They call me and a lot of them are chiefs. And I will tell you 90% of the chiefs that I've retired have received an Article 15 and been demoted.
Mhm.
And I say as part of my speech, any good chief who knows they're worth their salt, they've messed up, dude. And it's maybe not the same on the officer side because we have
Right.
it's a little bit different thing that happens when officers mess up, but you can absolutely recover and get back on your feet if you mess up, as in listen people, and usually that's a punch in the face. So I appreciate you telling me that story, and you are not alone, my
Can I
friend. You are
add
not
one
alone.
more point to this though, Peter? And
Yep.
is that the bruise of your demotion that exists, and you got to go through the bruising period. And oftentimes people that want to just, get back up from skinning their knee, the bruising doesn't just go away. And so you got to sit in that. And a lot of times airmen are not patient enough to get through the bruising period or whatever that time is, and then allow themselves to grow from it. And so I think that's the part that my leader allowed me to recognize, hey, this is going to smart a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, but you can find your way out of it. And so that was really beneficial statement. That was
and that comes down to mindset, right, Dave?
right.
Dave, shit, he's gonna fire me. I called him Dave. Sorry, Satch. Okay, it comes down to mindset, right? I mean, you're right. If you bruise your knees, people can just give up, and a lot of the times they do, Satch. And so I think you're absolutely appropriate. Getting back, letting that bruising heal, and it will take a while, but learning from that bruising. Dude, this is awesome. Excellent. Hey, so let's move on to the second question, leadership identity versus title. So you say that leadership is, leaders talk not just being labels, right? Leadership is a label, right? But having clarity on who you truly are. Talk to me about the difference between a leader by title and a leader by identity, and why does it matter so much? And how do you tell someone if they're a leader by title or they're a leader by identity? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, such a good question. I think there's plenty of title-based leaders, both in the military and corporate spaces today.
Yeah.
And some of them are sitting ducks because the institutions create them, because they create their leaders out of, those who have, technical prowess. And because of that, they lean heavily on their ability to, of their duty title and their skill rather than the actual completely different profession of leading people. And so identity-based leaders are someone that I say are chosen by their followers. Not that they are physically present around them, meaning their followers are just not around them physically, but they chose them to add value to them. And so that's how I look at it. I allow my leadership to be something that is chosen by the people. And when you look at it that way, you kind of flip leadership on its head. And so now there's that distinction between a title-based leader and an identity-based leader.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And of course, we all know the answer to the next question. Which one are you going to fall off the cliff? The identity one or the one who leads by title? You're going to do the identity one, right? Because you actually you end up believing that person, right? So what I'm going to throw a curveball. It's not really a curveball, but it's not on the sheet of paper for questions. But what about coaching? How close do you think leadership is to actually coaching a team? But to me, that's really all you are, is you're a coach, right? What do you have to do? You have to connect with your people. You have to identify. You have to move forward. You have to have a common goal. You have to have everyone working together. Talk to me about that, Satch. Coaching.
Well, I mean, it kind of ties to the same question, what kind of coach would you want?
Yeah.
And you want someone that you can trust, that can stretch you, that can, that holds you accountable, that will, teach you something. Yeah. And that's the kind of coach that I would want to have. And in the same regard, coaching is that same thing. Someone that's going to be accountability to you, someone that's going to, open your mind to something different, right? We call it in the coaching space, creating new awareness. And so the same thing with regards to, let's say a football coach. I want to learn from them, and I want to feel safe there with that person, meaning I could take risk and I can make a mistake and I can come back from it. And so all of that really has, some similarities to coaching and coaching in sport. Mm-hmm.
No, that's good stuff. Good stuff. Let's talk about something that maybe, some of the best coaches, maybe Bobby Knight didn't do well at this, EQ, emotional intelligence, right? So I like to say emotional intelligence, EQ. Yeah, they throw out these fluffy words and stuff. It's about being a human. I think EQ is all about being a human and being in touch with yourself, but also being able to understand. And then we're going to talk about the word empathy, which is thrown out a lot. But let's talk about EQ. You emphasize emotional intelligence in helping leaders build emotions for them, not against them. How do you someone who's like an engineer, who's naturally logical, to bring emotion into their effective leadership?
Yeah. So, emotional intelligence is one of the 3 essential elements of leadership for my company. And so we use that along with caring, courage, and emotional intelligence.
Okay.
And the reason why emotional intelligence is so difficult is because it's not tangible, right? It's not something that you can see.
Yeah. Yep.
And a person that's that you refer to as someone that, engineer, that's easy. I mean, I could put 2 blocks together, this works, or I could analyze this and that works. And it's something that I could see. But emotional intelligence is something that you got to feel. And that's a little bit more difficult. But when I coach leaders in this area of emotional intelligence, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so it's like, if I can give you this talent to see what emotional intelligence looks like, you can't unsee it, and then you will leverage it almost always. The first step in that is to first see themselves. And we spend a lot of times when I'm coaching leaders is let's start with who the hell this person really is that's in front of them, so they can see themselves. And once they can see themselves at that granular level, in those different layers, now they can see others at that layer. And that's where I think emotional intelligence is difficult for people by the example that you've given.
Yeah, 100%. You got to be able to understand yourself. That's what we do in the class, right? You're useless to anybody else unless you understand who you are and where you're trying to go or what you're trying to convey. You got to understand yourself first. It's like working out. You can't tell everyone else to work out and worry about everybody else if you don't take care of yourself first. I mean, that is the key. You have to take care of yourself. You have to understand yourself first before you can help anybody else. And I think a lot of people miss that. So why did you actually, talk to me about Amazon and how you went from Amazon into coaching. I know you said you didn't like it in your introduction, but what did you do? Were you in the leadership program? I mean, I know I had 2 interviews in the leadership program for the Amazon, and the guy called me back and said, "Yeah, you're not what we want." I'm like, "Okay, fine, whatever." But how far did you get in the Amazon journey?
Yeah, so I was running full speed at the Pentagon for General Goldfein and Chief Wright and Secretary Wilson, and so there was no time to go into those bridging programs to get into Amazon. So I did it cold. And so that was an interesting moment for me. And so it was completely different from, the institution of the United States Air Force. However, I knew how to lead people. I knew that part. And so there I am in retail as an operations manager. And I was really successful at it. In the Southeast, I had one of the fastest moving teams. And but I did it differently than my bosses expected. And they used the whip, and that was it. And that was like go, go, go. And there was still a lot of go, 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 but I did it at a human level.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I was asked to fire people that I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. And I said I wouldn't. And and so me having one of the fastest teams in the Southeast, that allowed me to, for my approach to go on for a little while longer than they really were comfortable with. But after a while, they were pushed me to do some things that I just didn't want to do. So I knew what I really loved. And Peter, there's a story. I'm taking a coaching course while I'm at Amazon to be a certified coach, and the coaching mentor instructor J.R. Flatter goes, "Hey Satch, what are you doing? Jump off the 30-meter tower." What he was saying was, go do the thing that you're passionate about. And I know it's scary. I know that you're going to have to drop everything and do it. And you don't know what's at the bottom of this 30-meter tower. It's dark. You could get hurt, all of those things. And I chose to jump. And the next day after that statement, I went in, I handed my laptop into the Amazon and said, I'm
Good
finished.
for you.
And so that's what started the journey to coaching and my company. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. I mean, kind of similar to me. I didn't work at Amazon. I worked at USAA, but I just found the corporate world very, very different from the military, right? I mean, what's the bottom line in the corporate world, especially at Amazon?
Yeah.
And USAA to a different extent because they deal in totally different things. But in the corporate world, the bottom line is money, and they don't care about you as a person. And you try to bring that humanity. And they don't give a shit, right? I mean, let's be honest, they don't. And so, I can certainly see the clashes, even though you are very good at it, probably because of your 30 years experience in the military, and you know how to get people to work together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's maybe a great concept to use, right? The corporate world was very different. So how long were you at Amazon? I was at USA for 6 years.
I was there for 2 years. And that was because, financially I had to. But it was right then at 2 years exactly, I left.
You're like, peace, I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Amazon wants to have a human element to it, but the demand from the customer is so high that you just can't.
Yeah, no. Absolutely. Let's switch to empathy. I know we were talking about EQ. And in my AU class, Leadership and Command, we asked the kids to give me one trait of leadership you think is most important. You wouldn't believe the amount of people that come back with empathy. And I'm like, yeah, empathy is great to a point. Because why? Because at some point you're going to have to make a decision that will affect someone's life.
Yeah.
How far is that empathy? Talk to me about empathy and what you believe empathy is and how it should be used to understand and work with people. Talk to me about empathy, Satch.
Yeah, that's awesome. If I were to change this, I would say people want to feel seen. And I want to be seen as a human being. And that a person that has, flaws. And I want you to recognize that I'm a flawed person. And that's how I kind of bunch up empathy. Yeah. And if you recognize that I'm a flawed person, then there's grace that's given to the error that I'm going to make somewhere in my life, right? On or off duty. And so if you can give me just grace for the things that are going to happen to me as a human, then that's how I kind of bunch up empathy for leading people.
But there is a line to that grace, correct?
Yeah. Let me share, and I talk about this in one of the books that I've written, is that there is the charity case. And I had these at Amazon. I've had these in the military. And I know charity case has such a negative connotation, but you can hold on to people that are having issues, that are dealing with personal problems. You can't hold on to too many of them. Because it will affect the team. And so, and I told my team at Amazon, you get one charity case and you got to get them off of that eventually. Because they will eventually drag the team down. And so that is another way of communicating empathy in a fast-paced world.
Yeah, I like that. I haven't heard of that charity case. I got to use that. I like that. Let's talk about your blind spots. You talk about blind spot, a common blind spot. What do you see as a common blind spot that people underestimate when they're leading? What do they not see? Because I know the answer for me. But what do they not see? What's really the blind spot you go on? Sorry.
No, I mean, self-doubt's probably the number one blind spot that most people don't see.
As
And
leaders?
what's that?
As leaders? So self-doubt as a leader?
As a leader, they don't recognize their self-doubt. As a matter of fact, they are performing at a level that they don't even realize that they've been wearing a mask. I know this firsthand, and it wasn't until my wife called me on it that I now recognize, hey, I've been performing for a very long time, and I appreciate her doing that.
I see where you're going. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, we all are trying to protect our ego, and so and that's what ego is protection of your identity. And so in a macho world, we're all just protecting this thing that's getting in the way of all things. And so a lot of that is self-doubt. And I don't know how many leaders that I've run into in this world that have suffered from self-doubt, and they just don't want to communicate it out loud because their ego won't let them do it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and unfortunately, your people that you're leading actually see that, right? They see that self-doubt in there, and it kind of it's frustrating in a way. Now, I like to talk about confidence versus arrogance, right? I tell people, and I want to see if you agree with this. I tell people, be confident, but don't be arrogant, because confidence is what you're doing. It's not looking down on people. Arrogance is looking down on people, right? Confidence is smiling. Arrogance is smirking, right? So I got a ton of stories. I'm not going to bore you with them today about arrogant people and eventually them falling from the pedestal, right? What did Colin Powell said? He said, don't let your ego get as high as don't let your position get as high as your ego. So when your ego falls, your position goes with it. So, and he was talking about arrogance. So arrogance versus confidence. So it's okay to be confident. It's not okay to be arrogant. But I certainly understand the self-doubt. I posted a story on LinkedIn. I don't know if you read it, about the first time in command. I wanted to be everyone's friend, right? I had a mentor of mine say, just be who you are. And I was like, I misunderstood. I was like, I'm going to be everyone's friend because I'm a nice guy. No, that's not quite what I meant. So, but I learned over that. I had a flight chief come in and say, people don't want to be your friend. They want you to be their leader. Okay. So you better change what the hell you're doing. And that was the first punch in the face that I got as a commando. I was like, wow. I was like, okay, cool. I appreciate that honest feedback, So I don't know whether it was self-doubt. It was just misunderstanding the advice I got and feeling like a knucklehead when I did it.
I suffered from self-doubt, Peter, for, I want to say, the majority of my career. And I covered it up in a lot of different ways. And the military allows you to cover it up. Way back when we started in the military in the early 90s, we had, sharp uniforms with creases and everything like that. Your hair was all, perfect. And so, that covered up all those other sins, all the other doubts that you had. And people looked at that, they go, he has it all together. Right. Yeah. And then, go on and you become very skilled at what you do, and you cover up your self-doubt in your technical prowess. There's so many ways that we cover up our self-doubt, and all of those are mini masks that we switch out when it comes to comparison to others and who we are in this zoo. And so sometimes our arrogance is a mask to cover up some of the things that how we're feeling internally.
Satch, I would almost say it's not sometimes. I think many, many times, and it's closer to 80-90% of the time, arrogance is you're covering up the true you, right? Yeah. You're pretending to be. Satch, I didn't know. Okay, so now that you said that, I'm gonna switch. What was the oh shit moment that you were like, I gotta be myself, dude? What was that point?
I alluded to that, Peter. Is like, here I am. I'm at the NCO Academy graduation, and I go, man, I got to really do something good. I'm the command chief. right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I go there and I'm really funny. At least I'm trying to be. Just trying to give them everything from me. And then when it's all said and done, hands shaking, my wife and I will have our backs to the bar, and my wife turns around and says to me, she's like, "What was that?" And I knew what she was asking me. I knew it. And all I could answer was, "I don't know." And she was like, "I don't even know who that person was out there."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was what in through our studies in my company is that's the rupture point, the point where you've been exposed.
Yep.
And I knew it, and I said, "Okay, I've been exposed now."
Yeah.
And now it's time to just go ahead and be me. And then I had to really look at me and say, what am I doing and why am I doing it?
Yeah.
Because I am a big time introvert. On the MBTI scale, I am, 87 to 93% introvert. And
Wow.
right. And so and to do this business that I do, it's really
Yeah.
hard. It's taxing, but I
Yeah.
love what I do. But I know that I have to be me more than I can be someone else.
Yeah. So when you do this, when you do engagements, you're probably emotionally spent after, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to ask you a classic question I do in my keynotes when I'm talking about my 12 rules of leadership. Am I an introvert or an extrovert?
Outwardly, I believe that you're an extrovert. But again, like what we just discussing, sometimes we try to cover up that aspect of us. We kind of
Yeah.
look at introversion as a black eye. And
Yeah.
there are
It's
so
not.
many great things that come from,
Yeah.
your
Not.
introversion.
Yep. So I'm a 1-point extrovert. So I'm technically an ambivert, what they call an ambivert, right? So I'm on that cusp. And my favorite story is if I go to a party with 50 people and there's 50 people at the party and I don't know a single person, guess what? I ain't going to talk to anybody. I'm going to grab my food, go to from the buffet, go to the corner,
Yeah.
sit on a chair and watch people. Just eat my food and watch people. Satch, I love watching people, right? I'm
Yeah, me
a
too.
people watcher. I think human nature is really crazy sometimes, and just you can learn so much from observing people. Now, the difference is between you and I would say this even goes for you, being that more introverted person. If someone comes up and introduces themselves, what can we do, Satch? We can communicate,
Start asking
we can
questions.
have a conversation, and we can connect. All right? We can connect. And I think that's the gift that maybe leaders have, whether
Yeah.
they're introverted or extroverted, is they can actually connect and have a communicate. So, yeah, they did a study on the senior leaders in the Air Force, and I was going through IDE back in 2006, and Colonel Robin King said this: most people, most senior leaders, most 3- and 4-star generals, they took the MBTI, they're introverts. They're not extroverts. It's not the person at the party walking the room and being the center of attention and stuff like that. It's the dude in
Yeah.
the corner over there who's very analytical, who's very logical,
Yeah.
who can connect with people, but he understands human behavior. Anyway, we digress, my friend. I'm going to ask you one more.
No, this is really good because I believe that to be true. A lot of people are just trying to cover it up, and it's
Yep,
the mini mask that we wear.
yep. I love that. Mini masks. It's
Mhm.
funny you say that now. I remember so in my YouTube channel, if you look at some of the shorts, I have a short out there where they created they do like I forget what they call them, but things for YouTube channels. But they have a picture of me with a mask and taking it off. Mask taken off. I never understood until we had this conversation. You should go check it out. Everybody else needs to go check
for
it
sure.
out. I got one more question. What's the most surprising insight you've learned from coaching after you got out of the military? What's the most surprising leadership you've learned from clients coaching them? Like, what's a common thread that people struggle with?
That they don't recognize that trust is the one thing that's going to advance their organization. When they come to me because of their team is underperforming, they're looking for a lean tool or some kind of skill a tangible skill, hard skill to utilize or to leverage to allow their team to underperform. And oftentimes this is probably technique number one is I ask them, how much do they trust you or your organization?
Yeah.
And then they normally tap dance through that, and I'll have to ask that again because I'll have to ask them, how much do they trust you?
Yeah.
And when they really think about it, they go, wow, I don't know. And I go, every single day you are working on trust.
Yep.
And if you can do that, that changes everything. Everything for the team, they'll give you discretionary effort. They'll give you their humility, you know, and if you're willing to trust, that trust is the thing that's keeping your team from performing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So trust, I love when you talk about trust. I think trust is huge. I'm going to ask you a question that for me, when I take over a squadron or a unit or something like that, I trust people until I don't. Yes. I'm not one of these dudes that goes, you have to earn my trust. I don't, you don't. What do you think of that philosophy as I trust people till I don't? Once you lose that trust, then you're not on my favorite list anymore. But I trust people until I don't. Satch, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. It's a vulnerable space to be in, though, Peter. You know, to trust.
Totally.
But the opposite is if you have to earn my trust, then how long does that take? And so you would have to go, okay, it's going to be 90 days, 100 days for me to trust you. I mean, that's a leadership flaw if I've never heard one. So
how do you put a time on that? I give you 120 days to prove it. What?
Yeah, that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't calculate in my mind. But, you know, when I sit among leaders doing training and development or something like that, I'll ask the same question. Who's in the room? Raise your hand if you believe they have to earn your trust first. And it's always very lopsided. And so we have to talk through that because if people don't earn your trust, then you're never going to get there.
Lopsided which way? Is it lopsided and more people think that you have to earn my trust?
Yeah, right. That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah, that's correct. But you gotta be a person that's open to, you know, to empathy. You gotta be something that's open to vulnerability. And that you're gonna have to be willing to accept that things are gonna fail around you. And when you are able to do that, then you can accept that I'll trust you right now. And then later we'll just see how that works out. Later we can kind of level set or reorient the team based off of that.
Oh my God, this is a great conversation. And it's leading me to more questions the more you talk about this trust thing, because it's huge, right? So it is a very vulnerable space, going in and trusting people until you don't, right? The opposite is it doesn't work for me. It never has worked for me.
Right.
So I always trust people until I don't. But see, I'm not a cynicist. I'm a realist, right? So I understand that human nature sometimes takes advantage of that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so yeah, let's just leave it at that. Human nature is actually to take advantage of that, of the mindset that I come in with is that I trust you till I don't. People will take advantage of that. And now, and I'm pretty bad at this. I hold grudges, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty hard not to, right? So, so if someone betrays that, to me, that's the ultimate betrayal, right?
Yeah.
Is that I trusted you and you took advantage of it. Yeah. So that to me is the ultimate betrayal. But anyway.
No, that's very human though, Peter, that you trusted them and then they betrayed it and then you feel that way. You should feel that way. Why? Because you gave them everything of you. Yeah. And so that is a betrayal. And I think it's very human to feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I'm human. Ask my daughters, so they don't think I'm human. But okay. Let's change this, Satch. We got about 10, 12 more minutes, 15 minutes. Okay. Well, we can talk for an hour and a half if you want. But I want you to ask me questions. Because you don't know me very well. You haven't, I don't know, have you read my book? Did you buy my book? My sales went up by one. So was it you or Jay France? I don't know. Anyway.
No, I haven't actually. And I was really curious about you more. Of course, initially it was the accent, and I'm going, okay, we cleared that up. But what made you name your company Unbreakable? What was it about Unbreakable that you felt like this was a prominent place to name your company?
So the podcast, so my company is called Gladius Consulting, right, Satch? And that's because, of course, you can see in the back here, I have Maximus's mask, right?
Oh,
so
right. Mm-hmm.
Gladius Consulting is and I'm going to talk about Unbreakable. There's a story behind that too. So Gladius Consulting comes from my favorite movie, which is Gladiator. I just love that story for some reason. My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, General Felix Lee. I can repeat the whole line to you, right? I just love that story. And I was sitting one day with a friend of mine at USA, and I asked him, "Did you freeze, man? Are you still there?"
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Good. Okay. And I asked him one day, I said, I want to call it like Maximus Consulting or Gladiators Rule or something like that. And he looked at me and he said, what's the Latin word for gladiator? So I actually went back and looked it up, and it's gladius. So the Latin word for gladiator is actually gladius. So I called my company Gladius Consulting. Now, let's go to the YouTube podcast of why I call it Unbreakable Leadership. Is because I have been broken, and I'm still okay. There's so many people in this world, Satch, and I'm talking specifically about the younger generation, that they break and they give up. No, that's how you learn. That's how you get better in life, in everything, is you break and you can get better. But, oh my God, it's so mean. Shut up. It's okay. Don't listen to all that noise. And it is okay to make mistakes, right? It's okay. So the first podcast guest I had was Jack Briggs, which is my favorite commander of all times. He cautioned me actually on the name. So I actually listened to him. He cautioned me on the name because he didn't want to tie it to the movie Unbreakable, which is the true story about the World War II. Do you know the movie Unbreakable? The true story about the guy that was shot down in the B-29 and got captured by the Japanese and spent. Yeah. So that the movie's called Unbreakable, but he was broken, but he didn't die. He didn't give up. He didn't quit. So Unbreakable, I want people to understand that I've been there. I've made mistakes. All of my guests have been there, have made mistakes, and recovered. I don't bring perfect people on this podcast. I want people to tell their legit. Phil Easton told a story. He screwed up, right? Everybody screws up. I want people to understand that it's okay to be broken, and you get back on your horse and you live another day. Did that answer your question, Satch?
No, it really does. I think about being unbreakable, and I think about our younger Air Force and our generation, and that they feel a little bit less unbreakable. And I think we've taught them to be less resourceful. And Peter,
Yes.
You're from my generation, and so we've been people that let me call it. I've learned how to make a fire, something where there's no light. I know, grab two sticks, rub them together. Here's a fire. And I think we have less resourceful airmen today because we gave them this tool of the cell phone to solve all problems, and they've become less resourceful. And so I think the reason why is because our generation hasn't challenged them enough to become more resourceful. And so they feel when they're broken, they go, okay, what do I do now? Yes. Because I'm a broken person. And so now it tumbles into something worse rather than being able to get back up.
100%. I mean, how do we, but and this is kind of a rhetorical question, but how do we teach that, right? Because what they would do if they were on the island, if they were castaway, they got their cell phone. I got no reception. I can't look up how to make a fire now. Oh my God. So yeah, I mean, and we talk about this in our class too, at AU. The generations, how do you lead Gen Z? How do you, they just need to be led a different way, right? But they are still as capable as everybody else. You just have to be patient. I don't know, but you're right. The cell phone has created a world, specifically social media, has crushed this generation. And you're right, they're less resourceful. They don't know where to go to find stuff, and if they don't have a phone, they're screwed, right? Because they can't look it up on YouTube or X, or no one's going to tell them how to do it.
I don't know that it's completely like that. I think our generation set them up for that, though.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yep, yep, 100%.
100%. I mean, it's not all on them. I mean, I'm not a generation, a millennial apologist, but I think we set them up for this. And so I think that there's some opportunities for us as parents and as leaders of these younger generation is to stretch them in ways so that they know they can get back up. Right.
Yeah, correct.
We teach that failure spectrum, right?
Yeah,
hey, deviance is this one thing, but you challenge yourself with something complex, and that I applaud you so that you know what it feels like to fail and get back up. And I don't think that we do enough of that because our generation looks at failure kind of myopically. And so if you fail, it's always negative. And so we have to create a space where they feel like they can fail and get back up. So, I mean, I love the idea of being unbreakable because, I experienced that myself. And so how do we teach now a generation to be unbreakable without being cynical about it?
Yeah.
Because you could easily you look at them, you're going, what the heck's going on, right?
Yeah.
But you go, man, I really set them up for this,
Yeah, 100%. But what else do you always want to know? You know where my accent's from, right? I don't have to explain that.
Australian, right? but that was easy. But so what do you have to deal with when it comes to your accent and now people looking at you with some level of credibility? How do you understand, the United States Air Force with this prominent Aussie accent?
No, they look at you. First of all, the downside of it is they think that I'm from the Northeast. No, I've never been to the Northeast. It's very watered down. But Satch, if you want me to speak Australian, or let's have the rest of the conversation in Australian, all right? I'll turn it on. We'll go a little bit better like that. And then we can talk Australian for the rest of the time here.
Right.
So, but I don't think I have problems, but I do see looks on people's faces, and they're like, he's not from around here. No matter where I go in the States, they're like, where are you from? But most people, of course, understanding that I'm a retired military, don't equate it to a different country. They always say Northeast, right? You from New York, you from Boston, you from Connecticut. No, I'm not. It's been washed out. So I came over when I was 17, and it was very thick. So yes, when I showed up to my first one in Omaha, Nebraska, they was like, this guy's an alien.
Right, exactly.
So my accent was a lot thicker back then, Satch. But I don't think I have to really put up with any credibility. But I do inevitably, and I don't outthink myself. I don't think, oh my God, these guys thinking I'm not like that. I'm very confident, but they do inevitably ask, where are you from?
Mm-hmm.
And in my keynote speeches, I actually tell people up front, I say, look, I'm going to be here for about 75 minutes, so you don't spend the next 74 minutes figuring out where the hell I'm from. I'm going to tell you the story. So I open with the story about how I ended up where I was, born in the States, dual citizenship, moved to Hawaii. So I didn't become naturalized or anything like that. I had 2 passports from birth. So, and I think in a way, for some reason, that puts people at ease. I don't know why. It's very strange, but I can almost see an audible relaxation. It's really funny, Satch, to watch. But yes, a lot of people think I'm from the Northeast, and then I tell them I'm a Dodgers fan, and they say, "You from California?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I actually do not like LA. I hate LA. I just go for all the LA teams." So I'm a Dodgers, Raiders, and a Lakers fan. And I saw the strange look on your face, and you're like,
I know. Oh, you know I have one.
who are your teams? Who are your pro teams?
Well, it's fairly obvious right here. The Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay, that's right. You always. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, Dr. J came to my school when I was an elementary school kid, and I fell in love with him. And so I became a Philly sports fan. There was no pro sports in Nebraska, so that was kind of a good concession. So I love that. Here, let me ask you one question before this is over.
Okay.
Why leadership for you? Okay, easy. You navigated through the ranks of officer in the ranks of leadership, and now you're retired. Why are you tapping into this, and why is this so important to you that you built such a big from podcasting to leadership development and speaking?
So you just asked me the $1 million question, and I'll be totally honest with you. When I retired from the Air Force after 24 years as an 06, I was like, dude, I'm done with this. All right, let me go work somewhere at USAA. I got a job at USAA, and I was just working in a cubicle, man. I was enjoying life. I was like, I don't have to do anything. I'm making some money, and I'm sending emails. That's all I'm doing. That's great, right? But then I got to be honest with you. I saw the leadership development and the lack of leadership, and I was like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
This is not the way it's supposed to be. So I had a guy named Don Howard come up to me, and he knew I'd taught leadership. I'd actually taught my last 2 years at Kadena. I'd actually taught at the Professional Military Education Center on base. I don't know if you know Cedric. I forgot his last name now. Oh my God, he's going to be mad at me. Anyway, so I taught leadership, and it was a very basic class. And Don Howard calls me in, and he goes, Pete, USA, surprisingly, doesn't know what military leadership is. We want more military acumen in our leadership. Yeah, less than 10% of the people at USAA I don't include all the spouses, even though they do to pump their numbers up. But less than 10% of the people at USAA are actually veterans, right? So 90% of the company does not understand how we think and how we act. So anyway, I digress. He asked me to teach leadership. So I took the leadership class that I was teaching at Kadena for 2 years, and I added some corporate smattering into it, like what I'd seen leadership does well here and what they suck at, right?
Yeah.
So fast forward 6 years, I taught that for over 3,000 people on a voluntary basis, and it was called Leadership 101, right? So it was a basic class. It was a 60-minute class. And people said, you need to write a book. You need to write a book about your experiences. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a PE major, not petroleum engineering. I'm a phys ed major, so I don't like writing anything, right? So I wrote a 55-page book, dude, and it's really small on leadership. And it was about my class. And then I went to the GS world, and I saw the same thing. I saw people using all these phrases, all these sexy terms to describe leaders and what you should. And I was like, none of you, and I'm gonna throw it out there, none of you have been in the arena. Stop talking about shit that you don't know anything about. And that lit a fire under me. I was like, okay, I'm gonna start a damn company, and I'm gonna teach people about leadership based on my experience.
Yeah.
Based on what works and what doesn't work. I'm tired of all these fancy phrases that people use. I have a relationship with Bubba, who's my ChatGPT pro person. He knows all about me, and he takes he helps me with LinkedIn posts because I am so upset about people who teach leadership who've never actually led. They've never been in the arena. And all these people that pontificate about, oh my God, empathy and this and that. And why can't people just speak English about leadership? It's not that hard. Stop using these sexy terms to describe leadership, because guess what? It's not that sexy, to be honest with you, right, Satch? So
that's right. 1,000%.
Leadership is easy. Leadership is simple. It's not easy.
Right.
Right. And I got that from Admiral McCraven when he wrote his book, Wisdom from the Bullfrog. You need to read it. It's a great book by McCraven. And he says leadership is simple. It's not easy. And that is so true, Satch. And we don't need to make it more difficult by throwing these $10 college words in here, or these new fancy terms. Anyway, I know I've talked too long, but
no, you haven't. I mean, that's an important point. And I think that I think that leadership hasn't changed. I mean, it's just about how we've used different words to communicate it, because there's not much new. And maybe if we can just expose people to see themselves in it, then maybe they'll look at it differently. But yeah, we try to throw a lot of college terms to it, but it hasn't 100%. Changed much at all.
I'm glad you asked that question. I'm glad you asked, because I got a little bit fired up, right? But I'm just passionate about teaching people about what real leadership is.
Yeah.
Not some theory you read in a book 10 years ago in college and you think, oh my God, the theory of it. Okay. I was actually going to do, and I'll end on this. I was actually going to partner with somebody who was actually a theorist. And we were going to, and I still have to follow back with him to see if I can do this. Tom Wilcox. That's the general that works for SBCC. Hey, Tom Cox, I think his name is, in Seattle. He's actually a theorist, right? So he talks about the theory of leadership. We had a plan that I was going to give my 60-minute spiel on leadership about real stuff. And he was going to come in afterwards and say, okay, did you love what he said? Now I'm going to tell you the theories behind what he was talking about, and do it like that. So I still have to follow up, and maybe we'll get it on the road. But I think that's a pretty cool concept. That would be a pretty cool concept if I could ever do that with somebody. So if you're looking for someone to reach out and you're a leadership theorist and you want to talk with a real leadership person, come on, let's do something together. Fun, my friend. Go on.
I do something very similar to that, Pete. Is I am a site supervisor and I guess client for William James College. And so I have interns that do research based off of a lot of the hypothesis that I carry on the wall here.
Right.
And they study it for me. One, I'm really interested in the human inclination and how the behavior of humans, and how I now can take my art of leadership and say, okay, based off of now the understanding of how humans operate, now you can lead more intentionally because you know this, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, I get exactly what you're talking about there.
Yeah, it's wow. It's amazing. Anyway, Satch, it's been great. Thank you very much for saying yes to this. I really appreciate it. I think we've done really well. I think we had a blast. We told some great stories. We talked about Unbreakable and why, and we've talked about how you've also fallen down and got back up, right? And you're still living,
for sure.
And you're actually excelling. So, anyway, thanks, Satch. I appreciate that. Let me stop
for having me
now.
Thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable Leadership. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to follow and share it with a fellow leader. Remember, leadership is about action, growth, and staying true to who you are. I'll catch you next time for more real-world lessons. Until then, keep leading well. Strength and honor.